In the news tonight, His Majesty the King opens the 10th Special Operations Forces Exhibition SOFEX 2014, which showcases up-to-date technology in defense and national security operations industries. Saudi Arabia detains 62 suspected Al-Qaeda militants with links to radicals in Syria and Yemen who plotted attacks on government and foreign targets in the kingdom. And Egypt's presidential candidate Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says the Muslim Brotherhood was finished and would cease to exist if he is elected. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty King Abdullah, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, opened the Special Operations Forces Exhibition and Conference, SOFEX. The exhibition showcases up-to-date technology in defense and national security operations industries. It also provides a platform for world leaders and experts to discuss issues related to world security and the role of the latest technologies in handling the emerging security challenges. Attending the ceremony were a number of royal family members, the Prime Minister, senior civil and military officials, as well as heads of delegations from various world countries. Here's more.
His Majesty King Abdullah II was welcomed at SOFEX 2014 exhibition by the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Mish'al al-Zibn, and His Royal Highness Prince Faisal, President of the SOFEX Steering Committee. Attending the opening ceremony were foreign ambassadors and military attachés, as well as other senior civil and military officials. The exhibition, which this year marks its 20th anniversary, has been classified as the first global special operation and national security fair and the first of its kind in the region.
SOFEX, as you see, is a fantastic exhibition this year. As you know, this is the 10th exhibition that we have for SOFEX. It has been ongoing for 20 years. For such a long time, this means that it is a successful exhibition. What we have noticed this year, that there is an increase of about 15% in exhibitors, in official delegations coming into the exhibition.
The exhibition drew some 371 defense companies from 35 Arab and world countries to display their latest high-tech military industry equipment and innovations, as well as training and organizational techniques used by security agencies and peacekeeping forces.
This is the first time in SOFEX today, and we are very glad to be here in Jordan. We've been invited by His Royal Highness Prince Faisal last year. So we are here today, 3 companies from Australia, Germany and Canada. And we are very satisfied for the exhibition, especially this morning. The traffic was excellent and we had a very good traffic in our stand. We definitely recommend SOFEX for all our partners as well, and definitely we will repeat it again and again.
In opening remarks, SOFEX Director General Amir Tabba said the event is far more than just a conference, but a crucible to cast world expertise and a meeting place for international defense industry. Farah Ajluni for the news at 10.
On the sidelines of SOFEX, Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour met with a number of delegation leaders attending the exhibition. Mansour met with Pakistan's Defense Minister Khawaja Muhammad and his accompanying delegation and discussed with him ways of promoting bilateral ties between Jordan and Pakistan. Mansour also met with the Deputy Defense Minister of Brunei, who praised Jordan as a voice of moderation in the region. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of Georgia, in a meeting with Mansour, expressed interest to enhance cooperation with Jordan in various fields, noting the qualified human resources and advanced education Jordan can offer. Mansour toured the pavilions and was briefed by public security and military officials on exhibits, including weaponry and advanced equipments used in combat, defense, rescue, and civil support. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Lieutenant General Mish'al Zeben, also received a number of military delegations attending the opening of SOFEX 2014. Talks with senior army officials from Pakistan, China and Mexico dealt with cooperation in the military field. Over to Syria, where the information minister said that the upcoming presidential elections were a purely internal matter. Speaking to journalists in Damascus, Amran Zarbi said the country's elections were not related to anyone outside the country. His remarks were made during a ceremony to commemorate Syrian journalists who have lost their lives during the Syria war.
This is an internal national matter that is not related to anyone outside the Syrian state, whether they are near or far, whether they are Arabs or foreigners, whether they are friends or enemies. Boycotting the presidential elections by any party will not be the political practice. It would be a politically isolated event.
Meanwhile, in Istanbul, the Syrian opposition welcomed the decision by the United States to recognize the Syrian National Coalition offices as a diplomatic foreign mission. The announcement by the United States came at the start of a visit yesterday to Washington by a Syrian opposition delegation, but does not mean that the U.S. is now recognizing the opposition as Syria's government. The United States also announced plans for a $27 million increase in non-lethal assistance to rebels fighting to oust President Bashar al-Assad.
Now there are positive signals. As you heard, the United States has made this decision to recognize the Syrian coalition in Washington and in New York as a formal diplomatic mission. This is a commitment that the coalition will be the only legitimate representative of the Syrian people and the Syrian revolution.
Saudi Arabia has detained 62 suspected Al-Qaeda militants with links to radicals in Syria and Yemen who were plotting attacks on government and foreign targets in the kingdom. Speaking at a news conference in Riyadh, the Interior Ministry spokesperson Mansour al-Turki confirmed the arrests and said the cell comprised 59 Saudis, a Pakistani, a Yemeni and a Palestinian. He said the group had links to the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. The 62 represent the largest group of people said by authorities to have been detained on suspicion of Islamist militancy for at least 2 years in Saudi Arabia. The authorities found a laboratory to make explosives and seized funds worth more than $200,000 intended for this cell. Al-Turki said the authorities were still seeking another 44 people suspected of having links to the group. Egyptian presidential front-runner Abdel Fattah al-Sisi ruled out reconciliation with the Muslim Brotherhood movement, raising the specter of a prolonged conflict with a group he said was finished. In his first extended television interview broadcast on Egyptian satellite stations, Sisi laid out his vision on the role of religion in the state. He said his thoughts differed from that of the Muslim Brotherhood and extremist groups. Asked if his becoming president would mean that the army would rule Egypt, Sisi was unequivocal, giving a clear no. Here's more.
On national television, Egypt's presidential frontrunner Abdel Fattah al-Sisi appears to rule out reconciliation with the Muslim Brotherhood movement. The former army chief removed Egypt's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, from power last July after mass protests and launched a crackdown on Morsi's Brotherhood party. Sisi is widely expected to win the presidential election later this month.
I want to say to you that it is not me who put an end to them. You, the Egyptians, put an end to them. The Egyptians said no. On the 30th of June they said no, and now they're saying no. Their problem is not with me personally. The problem is with the Egyptian people. No one, no matter how powerful he may be, can take steps that the Egyptian people do not agree with.
During the interview, he was asked whether the Brotherhood would cease to exist during the presidency. Sisi answered yes, that's right. He also revealed 2 assassination plots against him had been uncovered. An Islamist militant insurgency has been growing since Morsi's overthrow. Here, a bomb blast in Cairo on Friday killed a policeman. Islamist militants have killed several hundred members of the security forces in bombings and shootings like these. The army-backed authorities have outlawed the Brotherhood, and thousands of its supporters have been arrested and hundreds killed.
Back here at home, Her Majesty Queen Rania stressed the importance of guiding youth towards vocational training opportunities that best suit the demands of the current job market. Her remarks were made during the annual meeting of the Board of Trustees of Al-Aman Fund for the Future of Orphans, in which she was briefed by the board of its achievements made by the fund last year, as well as current upcoming projects. Since 2006 till last year, the fund's primary beneficiaries has increased by 19.2%, while the number of secondary beneficiaries has increased by 80%. Members of the board told Her Majesty that the fund is working on setting new strategies that aim to build solid partnerships with other organizations and individuals concerned with supporting orphans in Jordan. Up to date, the number of Al-Aman Fund's overall beneficiaries has reached 2,304. The Ministry of Health confirmed a new case of death from coronavirus, a 56-year-old man who was admitted to hospital suffering from pneumonia, pulmonary infection and high blood pressure. Today's fatality brings the coronavirus death toll in Jordan to 4 out of the 8 identified cases that had been diagnosed since 2012. The Director of Communicable Diseases at the Ministry of Health appealed to all public and private hospitals to report to the ministry any monitored case of severe respiratory infection, particularly unexplained pulmonary disease, so that the ministry could carry out the necessary lab tests, isolate the patient and apply infection control. The Russian and German foreign ministers agreed today that it was important to promote dialogue to defuse the Ukraine crisis. However, tension in Ukraine remained high. In Slavyansk, pro-Russian separatists were not backing down a day after suffering heavy losses. Ukrainian officials said more than 30 separatists were killed in yesterday's fighting. 4 Ukrainian servicemen were also killed and another 20 were wounded. Kyiv blamed Russia for the unrest, describing pro-Russian separatists who have seized control of a string of towns across the east of the country as terrorists. $1.3 million in gold have been recovered from an 1857 shipwreck. The nearly 1,000 ounces of gold were recovered on a reconnaissance dive to a historic Atlantic Ocean shipwreck. The 85-meter sidewheel steamship carried as much as 21 tons of gold ingots, freshly minted gold coins, raw gold, as well as the personal wealth and belongings of the hundreds of passengers, most of whom were lost when the ship sank. Historians say the loss of the gold caused a banking panic that contributed to a larger U.S. economic crisis called the Panic of 1857 that lasted several years. Real Madrid must win tomorrow's La Liga game at relegation, battling Real Valladolid, or their hopes of snatching the title from Atletico Madrid or Barca will be over. Real missed a chance to wrest the initiative from leaders Atletico and second-place Barca when they were held to a 2-2 draw at home to Valencia on Sunday. And now, there is no room for mistakes. The squad continued their training today, but without Gareth Bale and Dani Carvajal, who will be missing tomorrow's game. Luka Modric is available, while Sami Khedira could also feature. Lewis Hamilton arrived in Barcelona for Sunday's Spanish Grand Prix with 3 consecutive race wins out of the 4 runs so far this season. His Mercedes car won at Malaysia, Bahrain and China this year, but his best at Barca has been 2 second places. This season Mercedes are proving their dominance and there is little reason why they should fail. If Hamilton wins, the Englishman will overtake German Rosberg at the top of the table with 100 points.
Which is just mega, so much G-force through there. When you're in qualifying, it's flat out. So Barcelona, I've never actually won there, so I'm really hoping that this is the year. The car's great, the circuit's fantastic. For example, me and Fernando get to race there because he's the favorite, and so to have.
And finally, for a quick look at the weather, the kingdom will continue to be under the effect of unstable conditions for the coming 2 days. Scattered showers are forecast in some areas tonight, while winds will be northwesterly fresh, blowing dust in the desert region. Tomorrow, thundery showers and dusty conditions will prevail, and the winds will be northeasterly, changing to northwesterly brisk. Showers are also expected in the Gulf of Aqaba, though it will be hot tomorrow, while winds will be northerly brisk and the seas slightly choppy. The weatherman warns of poor visibility across the desert region due to dust. He now has a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. His Majesty the King opens the 10th Special Operations Forces Exhibition SOFEX 2014, which showcases up-to-date technology in defense and national security operations industries. Saudi Arabia detains 62 suspected Al-Qaeda militants with links to radicals in Syria and Yemen who plotted attacks on government and foreign targets in the kingdom. And Egypt's presidential candidate Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says the Muslim Brotherhood was finished and would cease to exist if he is elected. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.